interesting day yesterday during qualifying. These cars extremely close as some of the classes got mixed up. 3 classes running in this. They're on their first lap. Next time by, they should get the green flag.
Indeed, as you mentioned, the qualifying's extremely exciting. This race is the first of 3 this weekend. Crucially, though, the championship, the outright championship and the Pro 1500 championship coming down to the wire. It's between 2 young racers that are going to be stars of the future. There's no doubt about that. Nick Persing, after qualifying on the pole for the Pro 1500s, leads by just 1 point over Danny Dashelski. We'll take you through the grid and starting from the back row, it will be Carl Fredriksson in P34 alongside Evan Wolf. In row 16, it is Eric Griffin alongside Vince Switzer. Vince and Eric, both from Apex Country Club. From row 15, Brendan Wright, one of the locals from California, alongside Mike Kalka. Then we're in to row 14, and Todd Curtis won't be participating after quite a heavy impact in the wall in the final moments of that qualifying session. Richard McDougall will start from 27th. Then in 26, it's Ben Blander from Chicago, alongside Jason Greenwood, another one from the Lakes District. From row 12, it's Dave Tweedley, a Californian with a lot of radical experience. He's in one of the SR3 XXRs, one of the brand new machines out of England. Alongside him is Seth Bacon, one of our title hopefuls for the Pro 1340 Championship. Jeff Ramsey in an SR10 will start from row 11 alongside Joe Nuxall, a fellow compatriot from here in California. Then we're into row 10, and it's Arul Venkatesh, another one from Cameron Racing, alongside Jack Yang, who runs in our UK series, the Haggerty Radical Cup, as well as the Blue Marble Radical Cup here in North America. From row 9, it's Jace Bacon, who is vying for that Pro 1340 Championship, along with his father, and Ron Fletcher. Row 8 will be Ken Savage. He leads the Pro 1340 Championship at the moment alongside Mike Anzaldi, who was the runner-up in that class last year. Miguel Grillo starts from the outside of row 7 alongside Will Lynn, another one of our locals. Chris McMurray, who was the fastest of the Pro 1340s, will start from row 6 alongside Jim Booth in the lower of the Platinum class cars. In row 5, it's Austin Riley, car 20, alongside Greg Gorski. Row 4 should be Jason Plocky alongside Wayne Williams, both in SR10 machines, and expect them to rocket past some of the Pro 1500s as we take the green. In row 3, it's Aurora Strauss, and then Danny Dashelski, Louis Schreiber, Nick Persing, John Fields on the pole. Nick Persing taking the Pro 1500 pole. Look out for Louis Schreiber and John Field to stream away from the Pro 1500s as the green flies, and then it will be up to our championship rivals to see who can take the lead into turn 1. There's 34 cars on this grid. They're side by side. The green flag's out early. Already we've got racing 4-5 wide here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. And Nick Persing going to the inside of Jason Plocky down into turn 1. Hopefully the Platinum class cars. We've got a spin though, and someone got tagged there, and a bit of chaos. That's Chris McMurray being involved in that.
3
and
cars.
Will Lynn in the 66 machine. So hopefully those drivers can get out of the gravel trap. We know how good the gravel traps are around this circuit, and a bit more hip and shoulder there into turn 4.
It was really crowded coming across the start-finish line. You said 4 and 5. Some of the cars got pushed off into the re-entry lane and actually got off course and got shuttled into that.
They're jockeying for position again. Aurora Strauss to the inside as we start to make our climb up the hill here. And plenty of action from the Blue Marble Radical Cup on this opening tour. Again, side by side. And it looks like Austin Riley's hanging out wide. The caution is out. So obviously the commotion in turn 1 needs to be cleaned up. So these drivers will
Here's a replay.
We'll have a look to see. So down on the inside, and it was actually one of our championship hopefuls there that first had a bit of contact, but it was further back in the pack that we saw Chris McMurray get turned around, Will Lynn in the mix of that as well, and Mike Anzaldi unlucky in that beautiful liveried car getting stuck in the gravel. Will Lynn continuing. But I tell you what, number 19, Nick Persing, who's vying for this outright title fight in the Pro 1500s, was very, very lucky to escape the contact that he had in turn one.
Yeah, 2 cars remain down in the gravel there in turn 1, and they're going to have to be extricated by safety personnel. In the meantime, double stand in yellow, no passing is allowed.
Well, and what's amazing about that is all that commotion. We saw that contact between number 19, Nick Persing, and I think it was the 119 of Jason Plocky, who's now third, is that Persing has still maintained the lead in the Pro 1500 class. Crucially, Robert Soroka has rocketed up. A fantastic start for the young Canadian. He has eclipsed Danny Dashelski and now sits second in Pro 1500, with Dashelski, who's vying for that championship, in third with some work to do. So at the moment, it would be +5, actually 10 points in favor of Nick Persing, who's a Californian. He's come to his home race for the final time here. This is round 6 of the Blue Marble Radical Cup. This is race 15 of 18, and there are just 3 races that will dictate this championship between Persing and Dashelski. Now we'll just go through the field and see who else was the mover and shakers. Well, the 111 machine, Louis Schreiber, has taken over the lead from John Field, so a good start from him. Louis Schreiber, we mentioned he's from the Lakes District up near Chicago, and he's a pretty fierce competitor. He got a win earlier this year, and he's been really vying for some of the podiums, been a little bit unlucky. It doesn't seem to matter what he does, but Lady Luck never on his side. We'll see if he can come through for a race win today. John Field, of course, the points leader in the Platinum class, and really just has to have a solid race to basically wrap up this championship. I think he would have to take the start of the second race later today, but he's got a strong lead. For him, it's just about keeping calm because he's got a big lead over Louis Schreiber in the points. Schreiber going for glory this weekend, if you like, and John Field concentrating on what he has to do to bring home a championship for the One Motorsports team out of Nevada. Wayne Williams with a decently good start there. He sits 4th in the Platinum class with a couple of those Pro 1500s between himself and Jason Plocky. Wayne Williams, will have to see what the S's racing driver can do. Keep an eye on that number 57 car as we go back green. The big trick for some of these Platinum guys is they've got these 2 title rivals in Danny Dashelski and Nick Persing, not to mention the ever-fast Robert Soroka, who are sort of dicing it up. They're out of position, if you like, because their speed is so great that they're mixing it up with the faster Platinum class car. You can tell the difference between the classes with the day-glow stripes that are on each side of the rear wing. The day-glow yellow indicates the Platinum class. That's the Radical SR10 featuring a 425 brake horsepower, 380 foot-pound torque engine, EcoBoost turbocharged engine, and a pretty impressive machine. We'll see some lap times tumble. In fact, John Field did a 1:23.4 yesterday to set the pace and take the pole, the outright pole. The Pro 1500 class, just quickly, is indicated by the red stripes on the rear wing. That's a 1500cc Radical SR3. Very similar size machine to the SR10, but lighter. They corner faster because of that difference in weight, but don't quite have the power down the straightaway. And then the Pro 1340 class is again a Radical SR3 that's got green on the rear wing, and a 1340cc version of a motorcycle-derived power plant. So those are the 3 classes. Again, we've got some championships coming down to the wire in all of them. whether that's the Drivers' Championship and indeed the Teams' Championship. So a lot to play for this weekend, out in the sunshine at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
You said 3 more races to go. Where are the final 3 events?
Sorry, these are the 3. So
oh, they're all here. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got this one, and then one this afternoon, of course, and then one first thing in the morning to cap off what has been an amazing championship. We started down in New Orleans at NOLA Motorsports Park. Then we're off to Barber Motorsports Park with IndyCar. We joined IndyCar again at Road America before going up to the streets of Toronto, which was absolutely fantastic. The first time these cars and this series had been on a street race. And then we were just 2 weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas in Texas. A very, very hot weekend. The only thing hotter than that weather was the fierce competition on the racetrack, and these guys put on a really good show there. We had 3 races under green conditions, start to finish. Unfortunately, not today.
We've got one of the cars out of turn 1 has been removed. There were 3 cars involved in that. One was able to continue under its own power. One has been retrieved. They're trying to get the last one winched out once they get that car clear, because it is in an impact area. We should go back to green flag. So keep your eyes on the pace car when you see those lights go out atop the pace car. That means we're going to go back to green flag racing. Field circulating now through the infield, going up through turn 5, and pace cars leading them up into 6 now as they head up the Ray Hall Straight and up into the corkscrew area. A little bit of tire scrubbing going on at the head of the field. Maybe they've gotten the word that they're about ready to go back to green flag racing, Tom.
I think everyone's antsy, of course. We've been under a little bit of delay because of the earlier lightning. The guys were down to the pre-grid early. We did warn the drivers, but everyone with the helmets on, suits done up, belts tight, and ready to go. And so these guys have been waiting around. They're ready to get on with it. And, you know, hopefully we can go green soon. The stunning shots here from just what is a beautiful part of the world, Monterey, California. And, of course, down that famous corkscrew. Right, the lights are still on this pace car, the Hyundai pace car. And so hopefully we can go green relatively soon. Now, it's interesting. There has been a redress. So John Field has taken back over the lead. So perhaps Louis Schreiber just not catching those full course yellows at a moment where he'd already started to make a move. Heads up driving perhaps by Louis Schreiber not to take a drive-through penalty, a request to race control that he could readdress the situation. He's done that under these safety car conditions. So nice work from Bo Barfield, our race director, up in the control tower, and nice work from Louis Schreiber just to readdress the situation. So we've got the running order right. It's John Field who leads after that opening lap melee from Louis Schreiber and Jason Plotke, the top 3 in the Platinum class, running line astern on the racetrack. Then it's the fastest and the leader of the Pro 1500 class. That's Nick Persing in the number 19. If you're a local, cheer him on, because he is trying to take the title this weekend in front of his home crowd. And I know he's got a huge contingent of friends and family here this weekend supporting him. So far, so good. He took the point in qualifying, leads by a single point, would you believe, after 14 races, and 15 races rather. And so Robert Soroka, second in Pro 1500. And he sits 5th in the queue. Wayne Williams then, in effect, is out of place because he's in the Platinum class. Then it's Danny Dashelski, who's 3rd in Pro 1500, from Greg Gorski, Aurora Strauss. Look out for a good battle. Greg Gorski in the 24 machine is a strong competitor. He's over 50 years of age. You wouldn't know it when he's racing against these young guns. That seems to be the great thing about the Radical series and indeed these cars, is it doesn't seem to matter what age you are. If you're looking to get into motorsport, you can do it. And John Field's an example of this.
Pace car's pulling off.
pace car has pulled off. John Field already looks pretty racy into that final corner. Everyone will be looking to hit their marks as we get a green flag again on the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America Series. Already they have, and there's a bit of a moment as someone makes a pass just as they went green. Of course, you can start racing as soon as that green flag's waved, even if you're still approaching the final corner. Side-by-side action further back in the pack. So we'll see how this unravels. And again, one of the championship hopefuls, that's Nick Persing, who's side-by-side with Soroka. Soroka going for glory. He hasn't got a race win under his belt this season. Certainly deserves it. And he's putting all sorts of pressure under the number 19 of Persing, who has to keep it on the black stuff. He can't afford to end up in this Monterey gravel traps. And Will Lynn taking a pass there as well around Brendan Wright. So further action, and they squeeze down into the corner. And just ahead of Austin Riley, who seems to have fallen a little bit further back. Right, so Persing now with a little bit of a gap. Oh, and a big slide there, and that's Ron Fletcher, who's gone for a spin and luckily has kept it on the bitumen. Now you have to be extremely careful here not to get bogged down in that gravel trap, but he has managed to spin it back around and he'll get going, but disastrous for him. So Ron Fletcher, who hasn't raced in the Radical Cup for a little while, taking some big moves as we went back green here. Robert Soroka dives down the inside on Persing. We'll see how that unfolds. So this is for the lead in Pro 1500. Crucially, though, I think we're going to have Danny Dashelski right in the mix as well, and he is indeed. So Soroka now opens the door for Dashelski to go to the inside. This is for the championship lead in the championship. Soroka takes the lead in class. Dashelski alongside Persing. They've got to be clean here. And Persing's off. So Dashelski has taken the lead in the championship. Persing relegated to third place on the racetrack and second in the championship.
He stayed outside going through the Andretti hairpin and got two wheels off into the dirt, driver's right.
Just looked like he got into the marbles there. He was giving a wide berth to his championship rival. These guys know that they can't afford to have an off to get stuck because the points deficit would be too big. They've got to at least stay line astern. So whilst Persing's got a little bit of a gap now between himself and his championship rival, as long as he can maintain track position directly behind or in front, both of these guys are really still in contention. It is going to come down to the wire. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the final lap of the final race tomorrow morning where we see who's crowned that outright champion and gets the free drive at the World Finals, the Radical World Finals at Portimao. Right, we'll start another one. It's John Field who still leads this race from Louis Schreiber. Schreiber setting a 1:26.7. That's the fastest lap so far from Jason Plotke and Wayne Williams. So the four fastest Platinum class cars now running 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the racetrack. Then we're back to the Pro 1500 battle with Robert Soroka leading from Dashelski and Persing. Greg Gorski right in the thick of it as well from Aurora Strauss. The field's starting to calm down just a little bit. We'll take you back to the Pro 1340s, and it's Seth Bacon who's got the early jump from his son, Jace Bacon, and Kevin Savage, crucially, who leads that championship at the moment, has fallen back to third place. Now, will there be team orders between father and son? There's no rivalry lost between these guys, but Jace Bacon has the upper hand in terms of the points. Be interesting to see if Seth Bacon lets his son through.
Watching the action as they come through the corkscrew now, that's what's up on our video screen. Just beautiful picture of these cars coming down through there. They snake to the right. It looks like a brightly colored conga line as they come through left, right, left. They come to the bottom of the hill. They drop about 7 stories there in a couple of turns, and it's a gut wrencher because you come to the top of the hill and you cannot see over the top. You have to turn in blind.
It really is an amazing corner. The funny thing is, by the time you've thought about it as a racer, you're through it, and it's almost the next left-hander, this high-speed sweeper where you're really gritting your teeth because you've got to keep the pedal to the metal in these high downforce machines and use every bit of horsepower these engines produce. And you can see these guys jostling for position, 3 classes out on track. And I tell you what, they're pretty racy further back in the field. We'll try and pick up this action. So it's the 59. And that is one of our locals, Richard McDougall, who's sort of ahead of a stream of cars in that stunning golf liveried machine. And a lot of these guys in the radical races around the country tend to pick up and pay homage to some of those famous liveries that we've seen. Some interesting Porsche liveries, and just saw the other day a beautiful Ferrari Formula One-esque radical rolling off the production line in Peterborough, England. So some lovely cars, as you mentioned, and some great action. Will Lynn in the thick of it as well. So there's Richard going through screen, and behind him there's a bit of debris there. In fact, that looked like a side skirt getting ripped off on the rumble strips. And there's Will Lynn going to the inside. So plenty of action as the classes playing with each other. Robert Soroka still in the lead of Pro 1500. And again, stunning shots of these cars streaming through.
This is a 45-minute race. It's hard to believe we're more than 2/3 of the way through. We're coming down to just 12 minutes left. It has gone by very, very quickly. And look at that, almost reabreast now, going into the final corner down into turn 11.
Yeah, these guys are racing really, really racy. You can see the Dayglow Green Pro 1340. They're in the mix of the 1500s as well. And I think that's our leaders in Pro 1340 trying to carve their way through the order. So we'll try and pick up these guys. It's Richard McDougall. And then that's Jason Greenwood in the thick of it as well. Ben Blander, Vince Switzer in number 15. The 888 of Brendan Wright as well. So all of those guys pushing hard a little bit further back. The battle appears to be closing between John Field and Louis Schreiber. They're mixing it up, and Field now putting in a fast one, a win 25-3 at the front of this pack. And just getting a message from Indiao Miller, who's watching the live stream. He's not here with us this weekend. Indiao Miller, a former champion outright and in the platinum class. And he's unfortunately stuck doing business deals this weekend. He'd love to be out here, and we wish he was. He'd be mixing it up the front of this field. John Field with a 125.3 with Jason Plotke now behind. So something's happened to Louis Schreiber. He's tumbled through the timing charts. Perhaps a move that hasn't stuck for Louis Schreiber, because Plotke has taken over second place in the platinum class, and it's Wayne Williams who's moved up onto the provisional podium. And meanwhile, Persing has taken back the lead in Pro 1500. So right at the front of this field, it is racy indeed, with Persing taking back position over Dushelski. And again, he's ahead in the points of this outright title fight. Wow. So within just a space of a lap, it had seemed to be calming down, Dick, and all of a sudden, the action's fierce once again in the Blue Marble Radical Cup.
We've got 3 cars that are out. I think Murray is one of them. Anzaldi is another. And Curtis was the 3rd car that have retired from this event as we move into the final 10 minutes of it. But it is racy indeed all through this entire field.
Well, perhaps, and here we go. So on screen we can see heading down the straight and into turn 1. That is the fight for P1 in Pro 1500. And Nick Persing's going to have to be really careful again. He's going to get hung out to dry. Danny Dushelski might have a look. He'll be on the outside as we go into the next corner. Dushelski with his title rival right in front. That's the red car that you can see, the number 19. And the 333 is stuck in the gravel trap. That's Eric Griffin, who's joined us for the first time here this weekend and out of Apex Country Club. Hopefully these guys can keep it green. I'm not sure if he's in a good position or not, but we'd like to keep this battle raging in the platinum class and as well as Pro 1500. Persing goes through screen. Again, he's still in the lead over Danny Dashelski in the car 88. There they go, line astern. Meanwhile, Robert Soroka's just got that tiny little breather through the corkscrew. He's got about 2 car lengths in the thick of it as well. It's Greg Gorski, Aurora Strauss. Miguel Grillo's having a cracking run in the car 23 from Austin Riley. So the Pro 1500 drivers all touring this racetrack in similar lap times.
Field and Plucky seem to be breaking away from the rest of the field, your first and second place cars.
Absolutely, they seem to have an edge over Wayne Williams at the moment. But really, all eyes around this racetrack need to be on the hometown hero, number 19 of Nick Persing. He sits second behind Robert Soroka, but it seems like he can feel or sense a race win here, and he's all over the back of Soroka now again. And now it's Dashelski who's got some work to do. I wonder who's got the new Hankook rubber on for this race. Who's elected to use, and we've got the caution out. So perhaps it's the Steve Cameron Racing team telling Persing, you've got to get the pass done before the caution goes out. But the caution has come out, and so at the moment,
it'll
the race
be a pace car
is neutralized.
situation, double standing yellow. The gap, what we talked about in that battle, was 0.4 of a second last lap back.
Wow, there's nothing in it, and Persing now will have to be very, very careful if we get to go green again in this race. 7 minutes on the clock. Hopefully, the fantastic crews around this racetrack can get a car extricated.
I'm guessing that was for that 333 car. It looked to be over in turn 4.
Yeah, and no doubt Bo Barfield and the great team from USAC up in race control, just seeing what they could do to let that driver try and restart. Of course, there may have been some other action around the racetrack, but I think you're right. Gravel traps are extremely effective around WeatherTech Raceway, and we've seen that in some of the earlier sessions here today. Right, so we'll take you through this order. It's still John Field from Wayne Williams now. Interesting. So Wayne Williams has managed to eclipse Jason Blocky. Now, I just wonder whether that was a moment under the full course caution or not. You can see the safety car has come out onto the racetrack to recover a car there. So Wayne Williams has gone ahead of Jason Plotke and sits in second position. Then it's back to Robert Soroka, who leads Pro 1500 from Persing and Dashelski. Gorski, Aurora Strauss, she's having a fantastic run this weekend. Didn't come to Kota, but is back with a vengeance in the car 17. Richard Millet won a motorsports machine. Miguel Grillo doing a stellar job as well in the car 23. And Austin Riley. Then we're back to Louis Schreiber, who had a moment earlier in this race and fell out of contention after trading lap times with our outright leader, John Field. Seth Bacon leads Pro 1340 from Ken Savage. Right, so there's also been a fairly big shake-up in Pro 1340, and perhaps that's what the full course caution is for, because we mentioned earlier that Bacon had been leading his son and wondered whether team orders would ensue. Now we have Seth Bacon leading from Ken Savage, Vince Switzer, Ben Blander, Brendan Wright, and Jace Bacon's back in position 6. So Jace, who is a pretty fierce racer, he's only got about a year under his belt, would you believe. Still learning his racecraft, if you will. There's no denial on the talent and the speed that this young kid has, but sometimes he's just a little bit too aggressive, and it hasn't paid off this year. At Kota, he'd had a couple of moments where he could have clawed back some additional points from Ken Savage, and unfortunately aggression just got the better of him, and he ended up slipping and perhaps just missing out on closing that gap. It's happened again here in race 1 at Laguna Seca.
Pace car continues to lead the field around as we are coming down to 4 minutes left. If we do get a green, it's probably going to only be for about 1 lap. Field should be bunching up now as they go through turn 3. Through the infield, they'll go under the bridge and over to turn 4. Then that short straight. that takes him to turn 5, which is a banked left-hander that launches him up the hill toward the corkscrew.
Well, I'll tell you what, I do hope we can go green again, because having all of these Pro 1500 cars running line astern with Robert Soroka hoping that he can break through for a race win. Persing trying to put a car between himself and Danny Dashelski to expand the points lead to 11. And of course, Danny Dashelski trying to close in and perhaps retake the lead in the points battle with Persing. Then Gorski, who's looking for a race win. Aurora Strauss, who's doing the same. Miguel Grillo would love to stand on the top, or at least a step on the podium here in his home race. Austin Riley, who's done a stellar job this year, but found the going a little bit tougher than last year. He won the Pro 1340 championship. That also meant he won the outright championship as well. It came down to the wire between a couple of classes, and so he'll be right in the thick of things as well. But we're just waiting for some of the drivers further back in the pack are going pretty slowly. They really need to hustle and get behind the safety car. I think the safety car is coming in this lap. It looks like John Field has extended things. Indeed, the Hyundai safety car comes in. We're about to go racing again, and Field's already going for it. So here we go, and already they're very close, because they've got to wait till it goes green, and they are racing again. And at the front of the field, Wayne Williams is going for glory. He was side by side with John Field as the green flag flew, and Field does retake the lead. Now, crucially, you can see that Soroka has managed to maintain position ahead of Persing. Further back, it looked like Aurora Strauss was jostling for position with Greg Gorski and got caught to the outside. Looks like that's Grillo and Austin Riley in the thick of things as well. So everyone getting cleanly through the opening corners here as the clock ticks down, 1:47. I wonder whether we'll get one more tour or whether we're approaching a checkered flag here. It's going to be
get one more.
All right, these drivers, and Jashelski all over the back of Persing there. You could see the black car, the menacing black car. We're all over the back of the number 19. There they go. Dashelski Persing for the Pro 1500 Championship. A little lock-up by Greg Gorski, who's feeling the pressure from the 17 of Aurora Strauss. So it's everything to play for in the Pro 1500 class at the moment. And they're going to get back markers, I think. Some of these guys further back in the pack. We've got one more lap. The white flag is out for John Field, who leads from the 57 of Wayne Williams. This is going to be a cracking result for him. Side by side they go down the straightaway now. And it looks like that was Grillo who's got ahead of Gorski, and now it looks like Aurora Strauss is having a go, and there's almost contact between them as Strauss in the 17 gets past Greg Gorski, who goes back to the inside and has a look, but he can't do it. There's dust and a little bit of dirt flying further back. I don't think we lost anyone, just someone running wide. And we'll try and pick up that battle for the lead in Pro 1500 as well. But there's fast and furious racing around the pack. If you're watching around this racetrack, keep an eye on the number 19. 529 of that's Jason Greenwood has gone slowly on the front straightaway. It looks like his race is done, and he's trying to find a spot to pull over. But that won't affect the final few corners here. Let's see who's got it. Who will come and find the checkered flag? It looks like it's John Field with a pretty good lead. Someone dives into pit lane, so I'm not sure what's happening there. Further back, we've got cars in the gravel. In the second to last corner, Field takes the flag. He'll take the win in the Platinum class. Who will be second across the line? And it's Wayne Williams. And then Soroka appears to have taken a place. Danny Dashelski has picked up third place because somehow Miguel Grillo has come through to take a spot over Dashelski and Persing. Wow. So Robert Soroka picks up the Pro 1500 win from a hard-charging Miguel Grillo, who finds himself second on the second step of the podium. An amazing last couple of laps for him. I think that dust we saw in the second to last corner may have been Dushelski and Persing duking it out for the championship. And Danny Dushelski has regained the lead by at least 4 points. He will be on the final step of the podium.
Those are the 88 and 19 cars we're talking about.
Unbelievable. So there we have the unofficial results. It's John Field from Wayne Williams and Jason Plotke, who's the top three in the Platinum class. It was Soroka, third on track, who managed to take the win, his first win. Congratulations to the young Canadian, taking the win from Miguel Grillo. What a superstar in his home race, to come out of nowhere to take second place. And third place on the podium, Dushelski from Persing. So the swing in the championship goes back to Dushelski. Louis Schreiber rounding out the top 8. It's Greg Gorski, then Aurora Strauss, who comes home 10th. Solid job from her, from Austin Riley. Then it's back to Seth Bacon, the winner in the Pro 1340 class, over Ken Savage. And third in that class, just going down the list, would be Richard McDougall, I think. It's Brendan Wright, apologies, in Pro 1340. So the order a little bit mixed up because there's lots of 1500 classes in there. Really solid job as well from Dave Tweedley and Arul Venkatesh. And then there you see in 21st position Brendan Wright, who should take third in the Pro 1340 class. Ben Blander having a solid run at fourth. Vince Switzer fifth in that class. And all the way back in 27th, Jace Bacon, after being second on the racetrack in that class early on. Wow, well there you have it, an action-packed Blue Marble Radical Cup North America race from WeatherTech Raceway. Dick, if we can put on some action like that in race 2 this afternoon and then again in race 3 tomorrow morning, we'll be pretty happy about that.
We've got 2 more great races waiting for us in the Radical Cup. Our thanks to Tom Brewer, the Global Motorsports Director for Radical Cup, for calling the action for us. He's familiar with these cars. 3 different classes, championships in all the classes at stake here this weekend at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This is the Fire